Hey everyone, Sajil Qureshi here with another episode of RevOps 500. Today, I'm especially excited because I'm talking to somebody who I've known for quite a while. We both got long in the tooth together in this whole marketing and digital world, I guess. Now she's worked at a lot of different agencies over the years. Now you can find her as the director of growth and delivery at Monarch. Jessica Crosby, welcome to RevOps 500.
Thank you, Sajil. I'm super excited to be here and to be chatting with you. It's
Likewise.
been, we've gone on a journey together over the
Yeah,
years.
yeah. Well, a lot of a lot of twists and turns. Some weird intermissions in the middle. But yeah, it's been good. It's been good. It's been good.
Yeah, yeah. More than anything, it's been good.
Exactly. So, Jessica, what is your biggest mistake?
Oh my gosh. I've been turning on this question because you make so many mistakes over your career and life, and it's hard to say, one or the other. Um, I'm gonna do a simple one because this has just been like top of mind and thinking about a couple of posts lately. Um, it actually came up in a post. Kevin Van Beers, I think is his last name.
Uh-huh.
He had made a comment about email marketing automation, and he had accidentally sent like a email to lots of contacts when he didn't mean to,
Uh-huh.
and it made me think of my early days at Skill Crush which is like they teach coding skills, which is a great experience. Like loved. It's where I learned basic HTML and CSS that I kind of use it somewhat on and off, but they had a database of over 400,000 contacts,
Oh,
and it was early on in my like automation days, and I definitely accidentally hit send to over 400,000 people on a couple of emails. And yeah, well, it didn't feel great at the time, but let me tell you, taught me some lessons, taught me some things about what to think through, and also how to recover from those scenarios too. So, yeah, was it, it's like one of those ones where you jump on the call with your CEO and you're like, hey,
how's it going?
just
How's your family?
you may have gotten an email,
Oh no.
but yeah, so that's just been fresh in my mind since seeing that post. I'm just remembering that moment of pure terror and panic.
But everybody, I think everybody who's been in the game long enough has done that, right? It's like, isn't that the thing? Like anybody who's been in here long enough has known that. Okay, yeah. Oh, I've done that. Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Is that not true though? You mentioned not Kevin, but everybody's probably done that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I and this is something I mentioned the other day in that post of HBO Max did it. They sent out an email one day that said email integration test number one. It's like, oh, this makes me feel a little bit better that a multi like $1 billion company can also make the same mistake that I can make.
Yeah, yeah. So take me through. Okay, so you send this email out to 500,000 people, and what does the email say, and what is the moment when you realize, oh truck, I did this, and then like and where does Jessica go from there? Like just
Yeah.
take me through the whole thing.
Short answer immediately is when I found out I did it. I had no delay, no nothing. It was just enroll contacts, send email. And it was for a promotion that we were doing at the time for one of our courses. And so, of course, like landing page wasn't stood up. The coupon code was in the email, and everyone immediately was trying to like purchase this course with this coupon code. And I'm having to send out this email. And I think it like ties back to that, like a larger theme of, how you handle or how you show up in those instances. And I think carry that into future conversations when you make mistakes like that and how you address them and how you show up. But yeah, pretty much immediately I knew I had sent the email accidentally. And like I said, people were trying to purchase the course with the coupon code, couldn't because the landing page wasn't accessible. And got a lot of angry emails to customer service about trying to check out for the course. And Like I said, it kind of starts to make you think about like, well, how do you, there's, when you get in those situations, there's no way out of it. You've done the thing, and you really shouldn't try to, cover it up, or you shouldn't try to lie about it. Like, it is what it is, and people make mistakes. People are human, and it's really about coming forward with a solution that makes the most sense. Like, that's all you can do at that point is, here's the mistake I made. Here's the solution I have in place. A lot of times I work with people, and I've managed teams over the years where people make mistakes and they show up and they tell me the mistake, and I'm like, okay, and like, how do you plan to go about with a solution? And I think that's the most important thing. That's the only thing you can do in those conversations of just like, here's a solution, here's how I'm trying to fix it and resolve it and make it like move forward from the situation.
So you send the email, immediately figure out, okay, oh crap, Jessica did this. Then it's like, what is the solution then? I mean, what do you do? I mean, you get into a call, you damage control. Was there any sort of like, because this is earlier in your career, I mean, were you defensive about it? I mean, like, what was it? What was the situation?
I wasn't defensive about it, but I think a lot of the times that depends on the environment that you're in. I had a lot of great managers that, if I knew if I deleted the whole database, they would say, "Oh no, that's not good." But they know that that was not my intention. My intention was not to do that and to make that mistake. And so I had a really supportive group of coworkers where I knew I could bring that issue to them and say, here's my mistake, here's how I'm working to fix it. And so that, I think, helps a lot in those scenarios when you find yourself and you've made like a oh shit moment.
Mhm. And like you go through it, you talk, and then and is there like so there's ways to own things like that. I'm sure you've seen those over the years where someone sends an email, then someone come back and they'll own it with like, oh, guess what, we made that mistake too, and then they
Yeah.
own it. I mean, what was the tactic? Did you just pretend it didn't happen to the customers? Did you write one of those emails out after, or disregard it, or because there was a coupon code in there, right? So what did you do?
Yeah, we definitely wrote one of those emails that said, "Hey, whoops, that was our fault." And I think in a lot of instances that actually humanizes brands, and allows people to kind of connect with them in a way that, if you were to just ignore it and you were to pretend that it didn't happen, would actually make them more mad if you were to take that route. So, I worked with our copywriter at the time to figure out like a message that could go out and just say, hey, we're so sorry, this will be the coupon code, not today, but, just acknowledge your mistakes, and, again, kind of humanizes the brand, and that, there are people actually behind these things that are helping work to like bring things to life. And, just like everybody else, we're human and we make mistakes.
And did this become part of the Jessica Crosby Wikipedia article where it's like, oh, you're Jessica, you're the woman who sent that email out in 2000 and I don't know whatever, and to 400,000 people, and you're that one. Did it come out to that and like and stuff like that, or was it just like nobody cared kind of, and except for you obviously, and the people you work with, and then you just kind of moved on? I mean, what was the
Yeah,
fallout?
I mean, I think you wear those things as a badge of honor for yourself, but like, people, we move on. Like, our own mistakes that we think completely take up, that we selfishly think take up everybody else's brain space too, doesn't. At the end of the day, like, we're all in our own worlds of trying to figure out like how to do our job the best, and somebody else's mistake is not something that, at least in my experience, I'm sure in other scenarios that might not be the case, but I, like I said, like, my team at the time was super gracious and, very supportive, and they, it was a one and done, and we moved on. And, I think how you make up, not necessarily make up, I don't want to say, but how you move on from those situations speaks, louder than the actual mistake itself.
So how did you move on? Like what did you do specifically?
Oh, let me tell you, I added a time delay between any workflow going forward, and I still do to this day. No, I mean, I do that. I make sure anytime I'm testing workflows in HubSpot, and now, like, I send a lot fewer marketing emails these days, but, It's still been a practice of mine for any workflow testing where I'll add in a delay to just save my butt. So if I just, turn it on and decide to change my mind, I can turn it off. But no, I mean, I think about that situation a lot when it comes to having difficult conversations. And I carried that kind of, I carried that into the way that I manage clients, into the way that I manage people, into the way that I, manage leadership teams or interact with leadership teams, of trying to be as honest as possible, even when it's really difficult. I think we shy away, or it's hard to be uncomfortable. It's really, really hard to be uncomfortable and own mistakes that you make, because we are afraid of how it will reflect on us. And the leaders that I have remembered over the years are the ones that have owned their mistakes and shown that, like, they're humans. They make mistakes too, and they're able to make them, identify solutions, and move forward, and not make it their entire day or everybody else's entire day. Because, I think at the end of the day, and I learned this from an agency leader that I worked with not too long ago, of just, we're trying to do the best that we can every day. Like, the mistakes that we make are not intentional. We're not intentionally trying to screw things up. We are trying to do as best we can, and that might come with a few bumps in the road.
Good way of looking at it, right? No one's really trying to, watch the inbox burn, right? just just kind of happens.
Yeah, I'm not like, I'm going to send this
Yeah,
mistake email to everybody in this database. Take that.
take that. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, like, and now obviously you reference, agency owners that you work with. You've had a lot of experience with agencies, and probably with, marketers who are just starting out or in the middle of their career, or even seniors who, who are, maybe like people you report to or whatever. I'm sure you've encountered your own teammates, uh, having this situation happen, because, like you said, it is a badge of honor. It's like a rite of passage for a marketer, right? To have done this. Let's be honest. and like,
Yeah.
what do you say to them? When they kind of, watch the inbox burn like this. What do you say?
Um, well, a lot of it is how they bring it up, I would say.
Right.
There are things that you catch and you don't catch as a manager, especially being remote. Like, you can't possibly see everything that somebody does in a day.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think the way that you lead by example helps open and create that atmosphere where somebody can come to you and say, I did this thing. It's so bad and I'm so sorry, but here's how I'm going to fix it. And that's what I try to encourage in those situations where they do bring problems to me, like the teams that I've managed. They already feel bad enough as it is. I'm not there to make them feel worse. If they can recognize that, hey, this was a mistake, this is something that shouldn't have happened this way, but I want to work through it, and I'm open to figuring out how I have, prevent this from happening in the future. Then I am there in those moments to help support that mentality and help them grow in that ability to recognize those mistakes and also to move on and solve from those problems. And that's what I've tried to bring into every, manager to a directee or direct report relationship, of just like, we're our own worst critic. I'm not here to be your next worst critic.
No, interesting. And like, so you try to come in and be constructive and tactical on how to move ahead versus, staying in the emotion of the mistake. So you kind of
Yeah.
try and separate the two. Is that am I reading that right? Or
Yeah. And, I try to, like, if we need to feel about it, we need to be upset about it, we need to, like, vent about it. Let's take a few minutes to do that. But then we do have to move on, right? Like, we can't allow ourselves to sit in something all day. Otherwise it takes away from other team members who are trying to get work done, or you trying to get your own work done. Because we can't mentally move on from it and dedicate ourselves to the next thing that's ahead, because there will always be something else that we need to move on to and start working on, and whatever that looks like. And so um, I think that's a really important piece of like acknowledging something that sucks and taking the time if we need to, but then like cutting that off and moving on and saying, okay, now what are we going to do next? How are we going to move forward from this? And that helps train the brain to think about that in future scenarios too, where you maybe something else happens and make another mistake and you're kind of like sitting in it a little bit. You start to kind of train your brain to say, okay, I'm going to give myself the space and time to sit in it, but eventually I need to move on because if I don't, then I'll always live in it and never move on. And that's just not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, like, and interesting you bring that up, like, because some people they will say you send this email out, like if I send that email out now to 500,000 people, and I made a mistake like that. I mean, I've done it, you've done it. I mean, if I did that now versus when I did that, say, 10 years ago, I mean, now it would hurt. I'd feel a lot more than I would 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you're younger, or whatever. You can just kind of like move on, wipe it off. But it feels like as you get older, like it's like the mistakes seem to like, maybe it's just for me. I don't know if it's for you or not, but those kind of things, like those blunders, I feel like those are like rookie mistakes, maybe, and not veteran mistakes. I don't know. I mean, do you see it the same way? Do you see it differently? I mean, like, what would you do if you sent that email today? Like, how did it affect current day Jessica differently than the Jessica who did it?
It's a good point. Like you do, I think, as you grow in your career, start to hold yourself to a little bit of a higher standard. Um, I'd probably beat myself up about it for a few minutes and then send out the apology email.
You'd be okay with it. Wow, that's pretty. You do the almost exact same thing you did when you did it, which is good, to your
Yeah.
credit.
Well, I mean, let me tell you, there's a lot more emotion behind what happened, however many years ago when that first happened, because pretty sure it stayed with me for a long time. But
So thicker
yeah,
skin now. Then interesting. All right.
well, it's interesting that you say that you would beat yourself up more about it now than you would back then. But I think it makes sense in the terms of like where you place yourself in your career and your growth now versus then. Of like, then you're younger and we're meant to make mistakes, we're meant to figure it out, and now it's like there's no room for error.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like when you have, like, when you're like a kid, you make kid mistakes, right? And then when you're grown up, you make grown up mistakes. But it's hard to make kid mistakes when you're a grown up, I guess. Like, maybe a kid, I mean, and a kid can't make grown up mistakes. A kid can't like miss a deadline for filing their taxes because they're a kid. But like, if a grown up makes a kid mistake, like maybe, I don't know, they forget their lunch at home. It's like, well, man,
Yeah.
you're a grown up. You can't make that mistake. You put your socks on backwards. I don't know, whatever it is. But like, but it's interesting that, like, you would do the exact same thing. You're saying there's emotion at the time, but now if you made a mistake, oh, I'll just write the apology email, and you go get a coffee break, whatever, and I'll be back tomorrow, swinging as if nothing happened. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna stay in the back of your mind a little bit, but like, there's, I think it's funny because my husband, he taught me this a long, long time ago of just what's everybody's worst day. Like
Yeah.
if you had to envision your worst day, what would it be? And everybody's going to have a different answer, right? And everyone's going to have a different threshold of what the worst thing is. And I think over time in our careers, that worst day, like if we're thinking strictly professional, not like anything
Yeah,
outside of
of course.
that worst day changes because there are things that have happened now in the last 5 years where I definitely take a lot harder than mistakenly sending an email to 500,000 people. And I think those are the moments where um, it's funny because I think it's more often with people than anything else because I'm like I've worked with so many people and managed so many people like so far in my career of you say the wrong thing or you say things like not quite the way that you wish you had said them, and so they come off in a certain way. And those, I think, are the moments or mistakes that I dwell on a lot more than like sending the wrong email to things.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good point, right? Like, I think as a professional grows, I mean, like, they'll have these mistakes which are like, I sent an email to half a million people. So the scale of that is, it sounds massive, right? Like, and I mean, what you wrote, what you said, that opens up an entirely different can of worms too, right? Like, what if you wrote something that didn't mean to be written? What if it was like an email to like your friend, and they almost got into a workflow to have the possibilities are endless, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that that's like a mistake that you make unintentionally. Whereas maybe when you're talking to like a subordinate or someone who's like your teammate, and you write or say something to them, that's kind of done with an intention, right? And it came out wrong or incorrectly, and then those ones are the ones that'll rent space. Does it rent space for you more than the half a million email? Oh, I just copied and pasted wrong. I just pressed the wrong button. Does
Yeah.
that one seems to rent more space in your head than the other one does?
100%. Yes, absolutely.
So how do you get, let's peel that one, like how do you deal with those? I mean, because those ones, yeah, I mean, those are things that, like, you make a wrong move in terms of, like, you managing a person, you're talking, you make a wrong move, and all of a sudden that fractures,
Mhm.
your teammate, or their confidence, or your maybe have a friendship with them. It fractures it, right? So how do you move on from that then? Like, what's your 10-step plan for that one?
Great question. Oh man, it's different in every scenario, and still don't have it figured out. I say the wrong things all the time to people, and as soon as I say it, I'm like, dang it, that's not what I meant. Um, I think the most important thing is acknowledging when it's come out maybe the wrong way, or it you can see that it lands maybe in a way that you hadn't intended. And if you can acknowledge that, I think that goes a long way in the conversation. And you might not acknowledge it in the conversation right then and there, but I think, at least with the leaders that I've worked with, or like mentors that I've had over the years, when they're able to kind of come back and say, hey, I want to take 5 minutes to talk about something. I shared this with you the other day. It can't, I could see how it come off this may have come off this way. If it did, I apologize. Or if it, like if it did, I want to have a conversation about it. And I think that goes a long way in those conversations, with when you can create a space to say, hey, I messed up. I'm sorry. You might not be feeling that way, but I want to apologize, because I know I can, whether it be do better or bring that up in a different way. Or it might even just be asking the question of, like, I shared this with you the other day. Could see how this came off. This might come off this way. I'd love to open up like the floor for you to share if you are still thinking about it, or if you have any questions about it. Because I think at the end of the day, it's about creating a space where you can have those vulnerable conversations with your employees, and making sure that, like, you're working towards a productive working relationship.
Yeah, and that's easier said than done sometimes, isn't it?
So hard. It's not easy.
Like, I mean, like, sometimes, if you're having these conversations, I mean, especially like, I mean, your world is so fast paced, right? You it's always like, things need to be done yesterday, or done by Friday, or done by last Friday. It's never like, oh, you take your time, get this thing done. You have all the time in the world. You don't, Jess, you don't work in the government, right? So I mean, like, you got to, like, you got to work really, really fast, and
Yeah.
it's usually like a breakneck pace. So I've worked with you. I know kind of how you work, and like, so if it's more likely than not that, how do you set up time to just kind of like what is your thing, like, how do you slow down to have like a very serious and probably emotionally charged conversation about something that was emotionally charged maybe 16, 24, or 48 hours ago? Like, how do
Yeah.
you how do you stop and just like say, okay, I got to talk about this thing that wasn't expected,
Yeah.
I have to deal with it. Like, how do you do that? And can you figure it out in half an hour? I mean, what if you can't? Then what do you do? Like, what's your thing?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, a lot of environments are fast paced, and people are moving so quickly that some people don't take the time to slow down and say, like, hey, we had this conversation the other day. I want to, like, just check in and see how you're feeling about things. I would say, I mean, anytime I manage people, I have a regular one-on-one with them. So I know there's always dedicated time in the week to talk about how they're doing, how their capacity is doing, or, if there's anything else that's going on. But when typically I've come off like maybe difficult conversations and I know that there needs to be a follow-up conversation, because there's kind of that like time in which you let it sit too long, it's harder to open that door and the emotions have kind of already set in. And so I'll typically, after like a charge conversation, just send a quick note and say, hey, I know we talked about this thing that's really hard. I'll make expectations really clear if it is something about performance or if it is something about like how we move forward, and try to clarify those in that follow-up note and just say, I want to take time tomorrow to like revisit this conversation, but give you some time to kind of think, like let things digest, and we can pick up the conversation. And I'll usually schedule 15 to 20 minutes. I would much rather take that 15 to 20 minutes in like a really like chaotic, fast-paced environment than let it sit and have it do damage long-term that I can't undo, or that nobody can undo, or that like bleeds into other team members. And I think that's the thing sometimes people don't think about, or maybe, and like, this is fair. There are some people that are like, you know what, it's fine. If this person decides that they don't want to be here, I can easily replace them. That is fine. I think for me, it's more so, these are people I'm investing in and people I want to be on my team. And taking that 15 to 20 minutes is important for me to make sure that we have a really good working relationship and that expectations are clear still. But that person still feels supported in whatever season of business we're going through, or project or client, whatever that looks like. So it's kind of taking that intentional time outside of just the regular one-on-ones, following up with the message, making sure that you're aligned with that person, or trying to set clear expectations as possible going into a follow-up conversation or into whatever action comes next.
And what if it's like, a very emotionally charged conversation, or like, it's, I mean, is 15, 20 minutes, and 15, 20 minutes is not enough. Like, what happens then what do you do?
I mean, you have to, like, it's funny because I actually went through this recently with an employee where it was like, it was a really difficult conversation, and largely because I think there was just some, I think it just was not the right fit at the end of the day,
Yeah.
with that person. But it took, like, in all honesty, the conversation didn't really resolve itself, mostly because I couldn't get that person to really like shift their thinking. They were very much stuck in like a, nobody's helping me, nobody's trying to do anything for me, like nobody helps make things clear for me. And I'm very much the person where it's like, well, like, what could you do? Like, how could you maybe help your team members, like make things clearer, make things easier for the client to kind of give you the information that you need. And so we had some conversations that were really difficult, and those were like some of the conversations where I felt like I made mistakes because I got frustrated in them, because I couldn't quite, like, we just couldn't kind of come to a place, like I would hear them say the things that, yeah, that's right, like, yes, like, let's work towards that, that's awesome, like, I love to hear that. But the actions would never follow through with that kind of mentality of like, we're going to shift this change, but the actions would never follow. And so we had, it was kind of a couple months on where we had some difficult conversations, and you have to kind of like let off a little bit, and you have to give them some breathing room. You can't keep having difficult conversations over and over. And some of that comes with realizing, like, as a leader, where somebody is at in their career, in their growth, and if that person, it seems like they're willing to grow, or if they're going to kind of stay where they're at. And in that situation, you definitely start to think about, okay, this person is going to be where they're at. Let's talk about a PIP. Because if I need them to be here, and if this is the expectation of the role, here's kind of the next action and the next kind of phase of this conversation. And in those situations, you have to take out all emotion, and you have to just focus on, here's the expectations. It's clearly written out. Did you meet them? Yes or no?
And that's it.
Kind of like a long-winded response to your
No,
question.
no, no. I mean, and that's pretty much it, right? Like, you have to kind of lay it out, because if it, you have to kind of take the wind out of the sails a little bit. Just, okay, here's the baseline of what we need to do based on where this person might be
Yeah.
overall. So, I mean, but where did you like where did you pick that up? Is that something you picked up along the way from somebody else? Is that something you I mean, where'd that whole process come from? That thought process, conflict management, I guess.
Definitely from other people, reading books. What Radical Candor is a book that I love going back to because it helps you kind of like take out a lot of that emotion and also practically see your team and how they kind of fit some of those different like categories of rock star or individual contributor. Um, and so that like over time, I think learning from other leaders too, like I said, I do not have it figured out. I know I make mistakes and will continue to make mistakes, but I have people in my network that I'm like, God, that person handled that conversation so well. I'd love to learn how they got to that point. And so it's like jumping on a call with them and asking them how they might navigate a certain situation that I'm in. Yeah, learning from other people that I admire in the way that they handle certain situations. Um, I've definitely been lucky to be surrounded by people who are able to handle really difficult situations with amazing grace and care. And those are kind of the situations that I pick up on or I dig deeper into, or I ask for advice on certain situations that I'm in to kind of see how they would handle it. Um, so that I think just like I've been lucky to work with really amazing leaders.
Yeah, and that's something not everybody can say, and that's I mean that's a blessing, because obviously this stuff is not like it's not broken down in like in some way where people can actually go around and see, okay, this is how they handle this conflict management. This is how they break it down like a sports team breaks down film. There's nothing like that where they say, okay, look, here's a really difficult conversation that XYZ leaders having with ABC team member, and this is how they're going to break it down line by line. Okay, here's where the emotion comes in, and here's how they handle it. Here's how they address it, and here's how they maybe cool the situation down. It'd be pretty interesting to see how they do that, but we don't we don't get that all the time. Like that in depth analysis of like day to day stuff that happens in at work, which is too bad in
I
some ways.
know. Well, and it's such a, people management is such an art. It really is because you're balancing so much in those conversations and trying to remain, and it's different in every scenario, right? Like, I remember I worked at a kitchen and bath company in their marketing department a long time ago. And I mean, my manager, like the environment wasn't great. And so that manager was really about just like standing up for us and making sure we had somebody to we could vent to her and tell her like this thing really sucked and this person's kind of being a jerk to me right now and I don't know how to handle it.
Mm.
Um, and I think in different like environments, the manager adapts to the environment and how to support their team, and that looks different. There's like different ways to escalate employees where there isn't a fit and you are having to put somebody on a performance plan. And it looks different from small agency to big corporate. And so it's, like to your point, there's no crystal ball for how to handle every situation. And there's no perfect way to handle some of those because I've worked in corporate and I've worked in small agencies and, I've seen positives and minus or positives and negatives in both.
Exactly. And so let's go back to the mistake. You send this email to 500,000 people, and was there something that stands out about how you were managed at that time? Like, what did your something that maybe one of your teammates said, or maybe your bosses said that thought that was a really cool thing that they did for me when I was sending an email to 500,000 people incorrectly? Was there
Yeah.
something they did or said or anything like that that you can draw on?
Yeah. My manager at the time, Libby, she was amazing. She, like, I jumped on a call with her because I was like, Libby, I need to talk to you. And I told her what happened, and she was just like, oh no, Jessica, I'm so sorry. Like, I've done that before too. And I like starting with that, I think helps like humanize the situation and make you immediately feel better. Like the person that you're kind of reporting into, and you may or may not look up to as a mentor. Like not everybody feels that way about their manager, but at the time, like Libby was somebody that I looked up to, still do. But I think her kind of showing empathy in the situation, and then saying, I think she said something along the lines of, well, like, I know you didn't mean to do this. Like, have you thought through solutions? She kind of guided me in that scenario too, of just like, what, now that you've made this mistake, like, what are you thinking? But I think just that acknowledgement of like, I've done something like this too, helps you feel less like an idiot a little bit. And then, also I think more comfortable in collaborating to find a solution for it, of just like, you've removed this barrier of feeling like this person, like you've just made this horrendous mistake, and this person may or may not just decide they want to fire you in that moment, but instead they've acknowledged that this is something that happens to everybody, and the best way forward is to find a solution.
So she kind of reassured you, Libby reassured you. She said, "I'm sorry, I've done the same thing too," which immediately disarmed your feeling that you're not alone in that
Yeah.
whole world of marketers who sent emails to work or started workflows prematurely, too early, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. So, I mean, what's new? What's happening at Monarch? Tell me a little bit about that.
Mm. Monarch has been a blast. It's been just this like playground of ideas and testing and implementation and getting back to the nitty gritty a little bit more. Um, I've been in agencies for the last number of, close to a decade at this point. Um, and I really wanted to find something where I could build and kind of work towards something, and also do it with somebody who was just as excited about it as I was. And like Brian, obviously he's built Monarch, and he's built the sales operating system for Monarch and what we do here. And it's been fun to kind of come alongside him and figure out, okay, now how do we like take this thing into execution and practicality and actually build out a product around it. So that has been really, really fun and refreshing. And I think like, you and I talked the other week about like AI and how it's been kind of introduced into what we do for our customers. And I think it's been super challenging and really uncomfortable. Uncomfortable in the sense that it's making me think different about things differently in the ways that I haven't before. I've dabbled in AI a little bit within marketing, but I think marketing is still trying to kind of figure out what AI looks like for them. Whereas sales, I think there's a lot more practical use cases that you're able to kind of jump into and start building around. And so I think it's been fun to be able to kind of have that tinker time and also exploratory time to figure out what that looks like.
So, just for everybody who doesn't know, what exactly is Monarch's bread and butter? Like, what is it? What is it that you guys do better than anybody else?
Hopefully, you can cut out that piece because I almost just choked on my So Monarch, so historically we've been a sales consultancy, but we've all kind of shifted over the last year into like more of a sales product based company. And we've built this system because Brian, he was at HubSpot for 7 years, and trained their global sales team. He was a PDM. He really kind of like elevated within sales as well to help like train on best practices. He's worked with sales teams even outside of HubSpot and helped train them and work with them, of all different backgrounds and kind of all different maturities. And like the thing that he has found across all those sales teams is that all of them need a just baseline sales operating system. Like, are you doing the things that you should be doing as a sales team to make sure you're never losing a lead, you're capturing potential revenue from close loss opportunities, you're progressing deals forward in the sales process, and then you're also taking every opportunity to expand those opportunities post sales. So for existing customers, what does expansion look like for them? And it's kind of what our sales system is comprised of: prospecting, sales process, and expansion. And there are specific plays and modules within each of those that we've kind of honed in on that every sales team needs. And so we've been building and have built out a product around that and what an offering looks like for our customers. And we've been deploying it, launching it, getting feedback from current customers of how things are going. We're seeing wins with our customers. We've and so it's, yeah, just been really exciting to kind of build this out alongside Brian and kind of what his vision has been for Monarch for a long time, and to see it come to fruition with a lot of our customers and to see them also win with it too. I think is the most exciting part, for them to say like, holy shit, we did this thing, and like, look what our sales team is doing, look what it's uncovering, look at the activities and the habits that we're helping our team learn and making sure that we're doing so that we don't miss opportunities that we've historically missed. So that's a little bit about Monarch. It was a little bit long-winded, but
And
there we are.
where can people connect with you more or with Monarch? Where can they find you? How can they get a hold of you?
Monarch, definitely. You can find me over there hanging out most of the time, and I'm usually on LinkedIn, just, you know, trying to figure out what to post on a regular basis, and what makes sense. And but yeah, like, you can find me at Monarch. Brian and I are always open to a conversation, always happy to like chat all things sales and HubSpot and data and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah.
So anyway, listening, if you want to get a hold of Jessica or Brian, hit them up at, I think it's monarch.io, and then yeah, or you can catch Jessica on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Well, Jessica, I just tell you, this was a lot of fun to talk to you. I didn't know that you sent an email to 500,000 people. Now I feel like I have that information. I can use it to my advantage. No, I'm kidding, but like, no, I didn't know. I didn't think you would be. I didn't think you made a mistake like that. So that was this pretty interesting, because I mean, to me, you've always been a very everything's very organized, systematic, structured. Everything is like to the minute, to the letter. When you told me, oh, when you have an emotional thing that you block off 15 minutes, I'm like, oh yeah, such a Jessica thing. She could solve it within 15 minutes too. Like she can.
Far too much credit, Sajil. We need to talk more often because I can tell you where the skeletons are buried.
No, but I was surprised to learn that about you. So, and I appreciate you sharing it with me, sharing it with our listeners. I'll have a lot of fun. Give this one a listen. Maybe nobody else will, but I'll have a lot of fun listening to it. So thanks for coming on
Yeah,
and sharing the story with me.
absolutely. Thanks for having me, Sajil. It was great to catch up with you and just, dive into all things mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's been another episode of Rebels 500. Thanks so much to everybody listening. Take care.